Hello, and welcome. Today, we're diving deep into the world of climate finance. That's the incredibly powerful system of financial tools being built to tackle, well, our planet's biggest challenge. So how do you actually pay for a global energy transition? Let's find out. Let's just start with a number. $2.4 trillion. That's the amount of money the world needs to invest every single year to hit our climate goals. Yeah, it's a staggering figure, and it really frames the epic scale of what we're talking about.
But this isn't just some abstract number on a screen. It's the price tag for a safer, more sustainable world. And to even begin to close that massive funding gap, this whole new ecosystem of financial instruments has popped up, all designed to get capital flowing exactly where it needs to go.
So that brings us right to our first big topic, the $2.4 trillion challenge. This is the fundamental problem that all these financial tools are trying to solve. How on earth do we get that much money moving, and where does it all come from?
Well, the answer is this whole world we call climate finance. And put really simply, it's just a system designed to make sure that financial investments line up with good climate outcomes. And listen, this isn't about charity. It's about making smart investments that are good for the planet and good for the bottom line.
And this ecosystem has a pretty diverse toolkit. Think of it like a toolbox for the planet. It's got everything from debt instruments like bonds, and we're going to focus on those first, to really clever ways of reducing risk for investors, and even entire markets for carbon itself. It's a multi-layered approach for a really complex problem. All right, so let's start with the absolute heavyweight in this arena, the green bond. This thing is truly the foundation that the entire climate finance market is built on. And I'm not kidding when I say foundation. This market is just massive. We're talking over $500 billion worth issued every year. This is where a huge chunk of the world's climate capital gets raised.
So what in the world is a green bond? Well, at its core, it's a loan, just like any other bond. But, and this is the crucial part, it comes with one very strict rule. The money raised can only be used for projects that have a clear, verifiable environmental benefit. That use of proceeds rule is what makes it so powerful.
And this shows you exactly what that means in the real world. We're talking about tangible projects you can actually see and touch. The cash from these bonds is going directly into building things like super energy efficient buildings or rolling out entire networks of electric vehicle charging stations. But of course, the story doesn't end there. The market didn't just create the green bond and call it a day. Oh no. It has kept evolving, kept innovating, creating brand new tools for new challenges. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, because you can actually see the market getting smarter. First, you got sustainability bonds, which mix both green and social goals together. Then came sustainability-linked bonds, which are totally performance-based. The interest rates can actually change if a company hits its climate targets. It directly links finance to results. And then, so importantly, you have transition bonds, which are designed for one specific, tough job, helping those heavy industries like steel and cement pay for their incredibly difficult but essential journey to decarbonize. Now, as powerful as bonds are, they're not the only tool in the box, not by a long shot. So let's zoom out a bit and look at some of the other really creative instruments in the climate finance toolkit. First up, blue bonds. The name kind of gives it away, right? These are all about protecting our oceans. The money from these bonds funds everything from improving wastewater treatment so we don't damage coral reefs to building up coastal defenses to protect communities from rising sea levels. And if you think this is just some tiny niche market, think again. The issuance of blue bonds has skyrocketed by 300% since 2019. That kind of explosive growth tells you there's a real rising awareness of just how critical our oceans are to the climate. And the innovation just keeps going. The toolkit gets incredibly specialized. You've got things like green sukuk, which are designed to work in Sharia-compliant markets. You've got really clever structures like blended finance, where a little bit of public money comes in to take on the riskiest part of a project, which then unlocks massive waves of private investment. And then you have these super creative ideas like debt for climate swaps, where a country can actually get its debt forgiven if it promises to spend that money on climate action instead. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so we've seen all these amazing individual tools. We have this incredible toolkit. But how does it all come together to finance the future on a massive countrywide scale? This quote really nails it. The goal isn't just about building wind farms. It's about making sure the whole transition to a green economy is fair and just for everyone involved. And a perfect example of this philosophy in action is something called a Just Energy Transition Partnership, or a JTP.
And look, these aren't just ideas on a whiteboard. They are happening right now at a massive scale. Get this, South Africa locked in an $8.5 billion deal to help it move away from coal while also supporting the communities that depend on it. Indonesia has a $20 billion partnership to totally transform its power sector, and Vietnam is mobilizing $15.5 billion to supercharge its renewable energy rollout. This is climate finance restructuring entire economies.
So, as we've seen, this field is incredibly deep and diverse. From a simple green bond all the way up to these complex, multi-billion-dollar country-level partnerships, the toolkit is vast. The financial innovation is absolutely here.
And that brings us right to the final, crucial question, doesn't it? The financial engineering is brilliant. The tools exist. We know how to raise the money, and we know how to direct it. So the ultimate challenge isn't a lack of tools, it's a lack of speed. Can we actually deploy these solutions at the scale and at the pace that the climate crisis demands? Well, that's the real trillion-dollar question. Thanks for joining me.